I saved a billionaire's life with a napkin, and it destroyed everything I thought I knew about safety. One warning scribbled in shaky handwriting, one poisoned glass of wine, one split-second decision in a Chicago restaurant, and suddenly armed men were hunting my 6-year-old daughter through the streets. They wanted her because I saw something I shouldn't have. They wanted me silent. They wanted us erased. But Vivian Hale, the woman I saved, wasn't about to let that happen. What followed wasn't just survival, it was war. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, hit that like button and drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. Now let's go back to where it all started. The kitchen smelled like burnt garlic and desperation. Ethan Cole wiped his forehead with the back of his wrist, leaving a streak of something dark across his temple. Probably sauce, maybe grease, definitely exhaustion. His shoes stuck to the tile floor with every step, the kind of sticky that came from 12-hour shifts and management that refused to mop until closing. The line cooks shouted in Spanish and broken English, their voices blending with the hiss of searing meat and the clatter of plates being slammed onto the pass. "Table 9, Ethan! Move your ass!" He grabbed the tray without looking at who yelled. Didn't matter. Everyone yelled in this place. The Orchid Room wasn't the kind of restaurant where people worked because they loved food. It was where you ended up when rent was due and your daughter needed new shoes and the electric company didn't care that you were doing your best. Ethan shouldered through the swinging door into the dining room, and the world changed. Out here, everything was soft edges and low lighting. Candles flickered on white tablecloths. Crystal glassware caught the glow like tiny trapped stars. The people who ate here wore watches that cost more than his car. They spoke in hushed tones about mergers and acquisitions, about vacation homes in the Hamptons, about problems that weren't really problems at all. He delivered the appetizers to table 9, some kind of raw fish thing arranged like modern art, and forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The couple barely glanced at him. He might as well have been a piece of furniture. Back in the kitchen, he checked his phone. 10:47 p.m. Lila would be asleep by now, curled up at his sister's apartment with her stuffed rabbit tucked under her chin. She'd asked him this morning if he could read to her tonight. He'd said maybe. They both knew what that meant. "Ethan!" Marcus, the floor manager, snapped his fingers in Ethan's face. "You're floating. Table 12 needs water. Table 6 is still waiting on bread. And for the love of—" He gestured at Ethan's stained apron. "Try to look like you give a damn." Ethan bit back the response that would have gotten him fired. He needed this job, needed it so badly that he swallowed the anger and nodded and grabbed the water pitcher like a good little servant. Table 12 was in the corner, the VIP section where the real money sat. He'd been warned not to make eye contact unless spoken to, not to linger, not to exist any more than absolutely necessary. But when he approached with the pitcher, something made him look up. The woman at the table was stunning in a way that had nothing to do with beauty and everything to do with presence. Mid-40s, maybe. Dark hair pulled back so severely it looked like it hurt. A black dress that probably cost more than his monthly salary, cut with surgical precision. Her posture was perfect, her expression unreadable, her attention fixed on the man across from her. Some silver-haired executive type sweating through his expensive cologne. Ethan had seen plenty of powerful people in this restaurant. CEOs, politicians, once, allegedly, a member of the British royal family. But this woman was different. She didn't just occupy space, she commanded it. He was filling her water glass when he saw the sommelier. Pierre, pretentious name, pretentious guy, was approaching from the bar with a bottle of wine. Nothing unusual about that. Except Pierre's hand was shaking, just slightly, just enough. And his eyes weren't on the woman. They were on someone else. Ethan followed the glance without meaning to. 3 tables over, partially hidden behind a decorative screen, sat a man in a gray suit. Unremarkable face. Forgettable features. The kind of person you wouldn't remember 5 minutes after seeing them. But he was staring at the woman in black with an intensity that made Ethan's stomach tighten. Pierre reached the table, set down the wine. His movements were too careful, too deliberate. The woman, Ethan caught a glimpse of her nameplate at a nearby empty seat, reserved for V. Hale, barely acknowledged the bottle. "Compliments of the house, Ms. Hale," Pierre said. His accent sounded faker than usual. "A 2009 Chateau Margaux. I think you'll find it exceptional." Vivian Hale. The name tugged at something in Ethan's memory. Someone important, someone dangerous to ignore. She didn't reach for the glass. "I didn't order this," she said. Her voice was cold, precise, the kind that made people straighten their spines without realizing it. "No, ma'am. As I said, compliments of— I don't accept gifts." Pierre's smile cracked at the edges. "Of course, my apologies." He started to retreat, but something in the way he moved, too fast, too relieved, made every instinct in Ethan's body scream. The man in the gray suit was still watching, and now he was smiling. Ethan's hand tightened on the water pitcher. He'd grown up in neighborhoods where you learned to read people or you didn't survive, where a wrong look could get you hurt and the right instinct could save your life. He'd left that world behind years ago, or tried to, but some lessons didn't fade. Something was very, very wrong. Vivian Hale lifted the wine glass, brought it toward her lips. Ethan moved without thinking. He stepped forward, pitcher still in hand, and his shoulder bumped Pierre hard enough to make the sommelier stumble. Water sloshed across the pristine tablecloth. The wine glass wobbled in Vivian's hand but didn't spill. "Jesus!" Pierre grabbed his sleeve. "What the hell are you— I'm so sorry!" Ethan set down the pitcher, already pulling a napkin from his apron. "I'm so sorry. I'll clean this up right away." Marcus would kill him. He'd probably get fired. But the words were already coming out of his mouth, and his hands were already moving, mopping up water that didn't need mopping, while Pierre sputtered and Vivian Hale watched him with eyes like cut glass. "Sir, please step back. Just 1 second, I just need to—" His hand closed around the pen in his apron pocket. He scribbled on the napkin, 3 words in handwriting that would have embarrassed a 3rd grader. "Don't drink anything you didn't order." He dropped the napkin on the table in front of her, mixed in with the others he was using to soak up the spilled water. Prayed she'd see it, prayed she'd understand. Then he straightened, stammered another apology, and backed away before anyone could stop him. His heart was hammering so hard he could barely hear Marcus screaming at him across the dining room. The back hallway smelled like cigarettes and failure. Ethan leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath, trying to figure out what the hell he'd just done. His hands were still shaking. The adrenaline was starting to fade, leaving behind the cold certainty that he'd just committed career suicide over a hunch. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe he'd just ruined a perfectly innocent bottle of wine and humiliated himself in front of Chicago's elite for no reason. Maybe he was losing his mind. "You." He looked up. Vivian Hale stood at the end of the hallway, flanked by 2 men in dark suits who looked like they crushed skulls for cardio. Her expression hadn't changed, but there was something different in her eyes now, something sharp and calculating. "What's your name?" His mouth went dry. "Ethan. Ethan Cole." "Why did you do that, Ethan Cole?" He glanced at the 2 men. They hadn't moved, but he could feel the threat radiating off them, like heat from pavement. "I don't know what you— The napkin. The warning. Why?" There was no point lying, she already knew. "The sommelier," Ethan said quietly. "He was scared, and there was a guy watching you. Gray suit, 3 tables over, the way they looked at each other." He trailed off. "I just had a feeling." "A feeling?" "Yeah." "Based on what? Training? Experience? Based on growing up in places where you learn to spot trouble, or you don't make it to 16. Something flickered across her face. Not quite a smile. Not quite respect. Something colder and more dangerous. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small glass vial. Inside was a few milliliters of dark red liquid. "I had the wine tested," she said. "Preliminary results came back 3 minutes ago. Ricin. Enough to kill me within 48 hours, slowly enough that it would look like natural causes." The floor tilted under Ethan's feet. "You saved my life," Vivian continued. Her tone didn't change. She might as well have been commenting on the weather. "Which means you've now made yourself a target." "What?" "Whoever wanted me dead saw what you did. They know you interfered, and they will come for you." No, I'm nobody. I'm just a waiter. They don't know who I am." "They know you work here. They know your face. And if they're willing to poison me in a public restaurant, they won't hesitate to eliminate a witness." Ethan's stomach dropped. "I have a daughter." For the first time, Vivian's expression softened, just barely. "I know," How do you... I know everything about you as of 10 minutes ago. Ethan Michael Cole, 32 years old, widowed father of one, late on rent, 3 traffic tickets, associate's degree in early childhood education that you never finished. You work 60-hour weeks and send your daughter to public school because you can't afford anything else. He wanted to be angry, he wanted to tell her to go to hell, but all he felt was cold, creeping fear. What do you want from me? Nothing, but I'm going to give you something anyway. She nodded to one of the men, who handed her a business card. She held it out. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. This address. Bring your daughter. Don't go home tonight. Don't go anywhere predictable. You're insane. Probably, but if you want to see your daughter grow up, you'll do exactly what I say. She turned to leave. Wait. His voice cracked. Why are you helping me? Vivienne paused, her back still to him. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter, almost human. Because 20 years ago, someone warned my father about a threat he didn't see coming, and he ignored it, and I spent the next 2 decades watching his empire burn from the inside out. She glanced back just once. I don't ignore warnings anymore. Then she was gone, her heels clicking away down the hallway like a countdown timer. Ethan stood there, holding a business card that felt like a live grenade, and tried to figure out how his life had just imploded in the span of 15 minutes. He didn't go home. He picked up Lila from his sister's place at midnight, making up some bullshit story about a burst pipe in his apartment. Amy didn't believe him, but she was too tired to argue. Lila was half asleep, her rabbit clutched to her chest, her hair sticking up in a dozen directions. Daddy? She mumbled as he buckled her into the car. Where are we going? Somewhere safe, baby. Are we in trouble? No, we're not in trouble. He was lying, and he was pretty sure she knew it, but she was 6 and exhausted, and she trusted him. So she closed her eyes and let him drive. They spent the night in a motel off I-90, the kind of place where you paid in cash and nobody asked questions. Ethan sat in a chair by the window, watching the parking lot, jumping at every car that passed. At 3 a.m., his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Mr. Cole. The voice was female, professional, utterly devoid of emotion. This is Miss Hale's security team. We're parked in a black SUV 2 spaces to your left. If you see any suspicious activity, text this number immediately. Don't call. Don't leave your room. Understood? Who are you people? The reason you're still alive. Get some sleep. We'll see you at 8. She hung up. Ethan walked to the window and looked out. Sure enough, there was a black SUV parked exactly where she'd said. Tinted windows. Idling engine. Watching. He closed the curtain and sat back down in his chair, his daughter's soft breathing the only sound in the room, and wondered what the hell he'd gotten them into. Yet, the address on the card led to a building downtown that looked like it was designed to intimidate. All glass and steel and angles that seemed deliberately hostile to human comfort. The lobby was empty except for a security guard who checked Ethan's ID 3 times before waving him through. Lila held his hand tight. She'd put on her favorite dress, yellow with white flowers, and braided her own hair because Ethan still hadn't figured out how to do it right. She looked so small in this place, so fragile. Daddy, I'm scared. I know, baby. Me too. The elevator rose 47 floors without stopping. When the doors opened, they were in a penthouse office that looked like something out of a movie. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. Furniture that probably cost more than his car. Art on the walls that he was pretty sure was real. Vivienne Hale stood by the window, silhouetted against the morning light. She turned when they entered. Her gaze went to Lila immediately, and something in her expression shifted, softened. You must be Lila. His daughter nodded, half hiding behind Ethan's leg. I'm Vivienne. Your father is very brave. He's scared, Lila said quietly. I can tell. Vivienne's lips twitched, almost a smile. The bravest people usually are. She gestured to a woman standing nearby, mid-30s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. This is Jennifer Chen. She runs my security operations. She's going to explain what happens next. Jennifer stepped forward with a tablet. Last night at 2:17 a.m., 3 men attempted to break into your apartment, Mr. Cole. Our team intercepted them. They were armed with handguns and cable ties. We have them in custody, but they're not talking. Ethan's legs almost gave out. My apartment. Your building is under surveillance. We've identified at least 2 additional hostiles monitoring the exits. We believe they're waiting for you to return. Who are they? We don't know yet, but they're connected to the same network that tried to kill Ms. Hale. Lila's hand tightened in his. She was looking up at him with wide eyes, trying to be brave and failing. He knelt down, putting himself at her level. Hey, look at me. We're okay. I promise. You said we weren't in trouble. I know, I'm sorry, I was wrong. He smoothed her hair back. But these people are going to help us. Okay? She nodded, but her lip was trembling. Vivienne spoke again. I'm offering you protection, full security detail, safe house, new identities if necessary. In exchange, I need your help. Ethan stood slowly. My help with what? Finding out who's trying to kill me. You saw something last night that my own people missed. You have instincts that can't be trained, and most importantly, she paused, you have nothing to lose. I have everything to lose, I have her, which is exactly why you'll be motivated to end this quickly. Vivienne walked closer, her heels sharp against the hardwood. I'm not asking you to be a hero, Mr. Cole. I'm asking you to survive. And the fastest way to do that is to eliminate the threat. You want me to help you hunt down assassins? I'm a waiter. I can barely afford groceries. You were a waiter. As of this morning, you work for me. I didn't agree to... You agreed the moment you wrote that warning. The moment you chose to care whether I lived or died. Her eyes were hard. They're already hunting you. The only question is whether you die running or die fighting back. Silence. Lila tugged on his hand. Daddy? He looked down at her, at the trust in her eyes, at the flower dress and the crooked braid and the stuffed rabbit she'd brought along because she thought they were going on an adventure. He thought about the men with cable ties breaking into his apartment. He thought about what would have happened if they'd been home. If I do this, he said slowly, Lila stays somewhere safe, somewhere they can't find her. Vivienne nodded. Already arranged. We have a secure facility upstate, full staff, excellent schools. She'll be protected 24/7. I want to see it first. Of course. And I want your word, your actual word, that if anything happens to me, you'll make sure she's taken care of. College fund. Everything. You have it. Ethan looked at Jennifer, at the tablet still showing his apartment building under surveillance, at the woman in front of him who'd just upended his entire life. He took a breath. Okay, I'm in. The safe house was 3 hours north of Chicago, hidden in the kind of woods where cell phone service went to die. It looked like a summer camp from the outside, cabins, a lake, a dining hall, but Jennifer explained that it was fortified like a bunker. Reinforced walls, panic rooms, armed guards disguised as groundskeepers. Lila loved it immediately. There's a treehouse! She was practically vibrating with excitement. And they have art classes. Can I take art classes? Yeah, baby, whatever you want. A woman named Sarah, kind eyes, warm smile, former Marine, showed them around. She'd be Lila's primary caretaker. She seemed good, genuine. But Ethan still felt like he was abandoning his daughter in the woods with strangers. When it was time to leave, Lila hugged him so hard it hurt. When are you coming back? Soon as I can. You promise? He wanted to promise. Wanted to tell her it would be okay, that he'd be back in a few days, that this was all just temporary. But he'd already lied to her once. I promise I'll do everything I can. She pulled back, studying his face. 6 years old and already too smart for her own good. You're going to do something dangerous, aren't you? Maybe. Because of the lady in the black dress? Because of a lot of things. He crouched down, holding both her hands. But mostly because I want you to be safe, and the only way to do that is to stop the bad people. Like a superhero? Like a very scared dad who's trying his best. She hugged him again. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, baby. More than anything. He left before she could see him cry. Back in Chicago, Vivienne's penthouse had transformed into a command center. Screens everywhere showing security feeds, financial data, personnel files. Jennifer and her team moved through the space with military precision. Ethan felt completely out of his depth. Here's what we know, Jennifer said, pulling up a photo on the main screen. Gray suit, forgettable face, the man from the restaurant. His name is Marcus Webb, former military intelligence, went private sector 5 years ago, works for the highest bidder. Who hired him? That's what we need to find out. She pulled up another image. Pierre, the sommelier. Pierre Rousseau, not his real name. He's been working at the Orchid Room for 6 months. Before that, nothing. No employment history, no social media, no digital footprint. A plant, Vivian said from across the room. She was standing by the window again, staring out at the city like it was a chessboard. Someone put him there specifically to get close to me. Why you? Ethan asked. She turned, and for the first time he saw something vulnerable in her expression. Because I'm sitting on the largest privately held tech company in North America. Because I have no heirs. And because someone inside my own family wants me dead. The room went quiet. Your family? Ethan repeated. My stepfather, Gideon Voss, disappeared 3 years ago, presumed dead, but I never found a body. And now... She gestured at the screens. Now I'm starting to think he's very much alive and orchestrating all of this from the shadows. Why would he want you dead? Because I took the company from him. Because I exposed his corruption and had him removed from the board. Because I'm the only thing standing between him and a hostile takeover worth $30 billion. Her voice was ice. And because he's a narcissistic sociopath who doesn't lose gracefully. Jennifer pulled up another file. We've traced the ricin back to a lab in Prague. Someone paid $2 million cash for it 6 weeks ago. The transaction was clean, too clean, professional, but we're working on finding the broker. How long will that take? Days? Maybe weeks. We don't have weeks. Vivian moved to the center of the room, commanding attention without raising her voice. Webb is still out there. Pierre is in the wind, and whoever's pulling the strings knows we're looking for them. So what do we do? Ethan asked. She looked at him, really looked at him, like she was seeing past the waiter, past the exhausted single dad, straight through to something she recognized. We set a trap. The plan was insane. They would leak false information through one of Vivian's trusted executives, someone she suspected might be feeding information to the enemy. The leak would suggest that Vivian was meeting with a potential buyer for a portion of her company, a meeting important enough that she'd lower her guard. The meeting would be bait, and Ethan would be there. You want me to do what? He said when Jennifer explained. Pose as her new head of security. You'll be visible, obvious, a target. I'm not trained for this. I don't know what I'm doing. Exactly. That's what makes it convincing. Vivian stepped in. They know I fired my entire security team after the poisoning attempt. They'll expect me to bring in someone new, someone I think I can trust. And when they come after me, we'll be ready. You're betting my life on a maybe. I'm betting both our lives. I'll be there too. That stopped him. You're serious? Completely. This is insane. Yes. She almost smiled. Welcome to my world. And they spent the next 3 days training him. Not to fight, there wasn't time, but to look like he knew what he was doing, how to stand, how to scan a room, how to position himself between Vivian and a threat. Jennifer was brutal. You're too stiff. Relax. You're looking at the wrong things, eyes on the exits. If someone pulls a gun, your job isn't to be a hero. Your job is to get her out of the line of fire. By the 3rd day, Ethan was exhausted, bruised, and starting to understand why people who did this for a living got paid so much. He also spent time with Vivian, not intentionally, but in the quiet moments between briefings, when Jennifer's team was running scenarios and the office was almost empty, they'd end up in the same space. You don't have to do this, she said one evening. They were alone in the conference room, surrounded by files and half-empty coffee cups. You could take Lila and disappear, new identities. I'd make sure you were set up. And spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder? Better than being dead. Maybe. He leaned back in his chair. But I made a promise to my daughter that I'd do everything I could to keep her safe. Running doesn't feel like everything. Vivian studied him. You really believe that? I have to. Why? Because if I don't, what's the point? She looked away, her jaw tight. Most people would have walked away, taken the money, and run. I'm not most people. No, you're not. There was something in her voice, something that sounded almost like loneliness. Can I ask you something? Ethan said. You can ask. Why do you live like this? All the security, all the paranoia, when does it end? It doesn't. She met his eyes. I was born into this. My father was a tyrant who built his empire on the backs of people he destroyed. My mother drank herself to death when I was 12. Gideon married her for the company and spent 15 years trying to take it from me. I've been fighting my entire life just to exist. Her voice dropped. And the moment I stop fighting, I die. That's no way to live. It's the only way I know. Ethan wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she was wrong. But looking at her, at the woman who'd built walls so high she couldn't see over them anymore, he realized she probably believed every word. For what it's worth, he said quietly, you didn't have to help me. You could have let me walk away. I know. So why didn't you? She was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. Because you reminded me what it looks like when someone cares about something more than themselves. The meeting was set for Friday night. A restaurant in the Gold Coast, neutral territory, expensive enough to be appropriate, public enough to feel safe. Ethan wore a suit that fit better than anything he'd ever owned. Jennifer had given him an earpiece and a weapon he prayed he wouldn't have to use. His hands were sweating. Vivian looked calm, untouchable, like she was heading into a board meeting instead of a potential ambush. You ready? She asked in the car. No. Good. Overconfidence gets you killed. They arrived 10 minutes early. The restaurant was beautiful, all dark wood and soft lighting. The kind of place where Ethan used to work, now sitting on the other side of the equation. The potential buyer was already there. A man named Richard Castellane, old money, polite smile, eyes that calculated your net worth before you finished saying hello. Ethan stood behind Vivian's chair, scanning the room like Jennifer had taught him. Everything seemed fine. Too fine. Ms. Hale, Castellane raised his glass. Thank you for meeting with me. Of course, though I must admit your offer caught me by surprise. Good surprises, I hope. They talked numbers, percentages, contract terms. Ethan tried to pay attention, but his focus kept drifting to the exits, the other tables, the waitstaff moving through the room. One of them looked familiar, young guy, dark hair, moving too carefully. Ethan's blood went cold. He touched his earpiece. Jennifer, waiter at 3 o'clock, check him. A pause. Then, running facial recognition now. The waiter was getting closer. Jennifer? Hold on. I don't have time to match. His name is David Kessler, former associate of Marcus Webb. Ethan, get her out, now. Ethan moved. He grabbed Vivian's arm, pulling her to her feet even as Castellane sputtered in confusion. We're leaving. What? Now. The waiter's hand went to his jacket. Ethan shoved Vivian toward the exit, his body between her and the threat, and everything exploded into chaos. The gunshot shattered the wine glass on the table before Ethan even registered the sound. He didn't think. His body moved on pure instinct, tackling Vivian behind an overturned table as chaos erupted around them. Screams filled the restaurant. Chairs scraped against hardwood. Someone was yelling about calling the police. Stay down, Ethan hissed, his heart hammering so hard he thought it might crack his ribs. Vivian's eyes were wide, but her voice was steady. Where is he? I don't know, I can't. Another shot. The mirror behind the bar exploded into 1,000 glittering pieces. Jennifer's voice crackled through the earpiece. Armed response is 30 seconds out. Do not engage. I repeat, do not. The waiter, David Kessler, was moving through the panicking crowd with predatory focus, gun raised, scanning for his target. He looked young, up close, maybe 25. The kind of face that should have been worrying about student loans and first apartments, not assassination attempts. Ethan's hand went to the weapon at his hip. He'd fired it exactly twice during training, both times missing the target by a mile. His fingers trembled as he drew it. What are you doing? Vivian grabbed his wrist. Keeping you alive. You can't even shoot straight. Got a better idea? Before she could answer, Kessler spotted them. Their eyes locked across the chaos, and Ethan saw the recognition flash across the younger man's face, saw the gun start to swing in their direction. Ethan fired. The recoil jolted through his shoulder, the shot going wild, punching a hole in the ceiling. But it was enough. Kessler dove for cover behind the bar, giving them precious seconds. "Move!" Ethan hauled Vivian to her feet, half dragging her toward the kitchen entrance. She was wearing heels that cost more than his first car, and they weren't built for running. She kicked them off without breaking stride. They crashed through the swinging door into controlled chaos. The kitchen staff had heard the gunshots and were streaming toward the back exit. Ethan pushed against the tide, pulling Vivian with him, searching for another way out. "There!" She pointed to a service elevator in the corner. "Loading dock!" They ran. Behind them, Ethan heard the kitchen door slam open, heard heavy footsteps, heard Jennifer's voice in his ear saying something about backup, about holding position, about things that didn't matter because they were out of time. The elevator door was closing when Kessler rounded the corner. Their eyes met one last time. The gun came up. Vivian slammed her hand against the close button, and the doors shut with a hollow thud. A bullet punched through the steel half a second later, leaving a dimpled crater at eye level. Ethan stared at it, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "That's twice." "What?" "Twice in 1 week someone's tried to kill you in a restaurant. You might want to start eating at home." She laughed. Actually laughed. It was a sharp, brittle sound, but real. "You're insane." "Yeah, well, I'm learning from the best." The elevator lurched downward. Ethan's legs felt like water. He leaned against the wall, trying to get his breathing under control, trying to process what had just happened. He'd fired a gun at another human being. He could have killed someone. The thought made his stomach twist. "Hey," Vivian touched his arm. "You did good." "I missed by 3 feet. You bought us time. That's what mattered." "I don't know what I'm doing." "Neither do I." She pulled out her phone, fingers flying across the screen. "But we're still alive, so we must be doing something right." The elevator opened onto the loading dock. 2 black SUVs were already waiting, engines running. Jennifer jumped out of the first one, her face a mask of controlled fury. "Get in, now!" They piled into the back seat. Jennifer climbed in after them, already barking orders into her radio. "All units converge on the restaurant. I want Kessler alive. And someone tell me how the hell he got past our security sweep." The SUV peeled out before Ethan could even get his seatbelt on. Vivian was scrolling through her phone, her jaw set in a tight line. "Richard Castellane." "The buyer?" Ethan asked. "He's gone. Left the restaurant during the shooting. His security detail says he was rattled and needed to leave immediately." She showed him the screen. "Except his credit card was used at a bar 6 blocks away 15 minutes ago. He's not rattled. He's celebrating." "He set us up?" "Or someone used him to set us up. Either way." She turned to Jennifer. "Put surveillance on Castellane. I want to know everywhere he goes, everyone he talks to." "Already on it." Ethan's phone buzzed. He pulled it out expecting another automated message from his apartment building's security company. Instead, it was a text from an unknown number. "Your daughter says hello." The world stopped. His hands went numb. The phone almost slipped from his grip. "Ethan?" Vivian's voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. He showed her the screen. Her expression went arctic. "Jennifer, the safe house, now." "I'm already calling them." Jennifer had her radio up, her voice clipped and urgent. "Safe House Alpha, this is command. Immediate status check. Respond." Static. "Safe House Alpha, respond." More static. Then a voice, crackling and distant. "Command, we have a situation. Perimeter breach. Unknown hostiles on the property. We're initiating lockdown protocol." Ethan couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All he could see was Lila's face, her flower dress, her crooked braid. "Get us there," he said. His voice didn't sound like his own. "Get us there right now." "We're 40 minutes out," the driver said. "Then drive faster." Vivian grabbed his hand, squeezed hard. "She's going to be okay. Sarah is former Special Forces. The facility is designed for exactly this scenario." "You don't know that." "No, but I know Sarah and I know my people, and they will die before they let anyone hurt your daughter." It wasn't comfort, it was just truth. But somehow, it helped. The next 40 minutes were the longest of Ethan's life. He stared out the window, watching Chicago blur into suburbs, suburbs into farmland, Farmland into the dense woods where his daughter was supposed to be safe. His phone stayed silent. No more messages, no updates. Just that one sentence looping in his head over and over. Your daughter says hello. When they finally pulled up to the safe house, it looked like a war zone. 2 vehicles were burning in the parking area. Bullet holes peppered the main building. Windows were shattered. And in front of the entrance, 3 bodies lay motionless on the ground. Ethan was out of the SUV before it fully stopped, running toward the building with Jennifer shouting at him to wait, to let her team clear it first. He didn't care. Couldn't care. All that mattered was finding Lila. The front door was blown off its hinges. Inside, the cheerful summer camp aesthetic was destroyed. Furniture overturned, walls scorched, shell casings littering the floor, the smell of gunpowder, and something else, something chemical and acrid, filled the air. "Lila!" His voice cracked. "Lila!" No answer. Jennifer's team swept through the building with military precision, checking rooms, calling out clear as they moved. Ethan stumbled after them, his legs barely working, his vision tunneling. The art room was empty. The dining hall was empty. The bedrooms were... Ethan. Jennifer's voice was gentle, too gentle. "You need to see this." She led him to the basement, down concrete steps that smelled like damp earth and fear. At the bottom was a reinforced panic room, its steel door hanging open. Inside, Sarah sat against the wall, blood seeping through a makeshift bandage on her shoulder. She was alive, conscious, and she was alone. "Where is she?" Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. Sarah looked up, her face twisted with pain and something worse, guilt. "They took her. I'm sorry, I tried to. There were too many of them. I tried to..." His knees gave out. Vivian caught him before he hit the ground, her arms stronger than they looked, holding him up while his entire world collapsed. "How many?" Jennifer was asking Sarah. All business, all focus. 6, maybe 7. Military training, they knew exactly where to hit us. Sarah winced. They weren't here to kill. They were here for her specifically. How long ago? 20 minutes. They had a helicopter waiting in the clearing half a mile north. Jennifer was already on her radio, coordinating with local authorities, with air traffic control, with whatever resources she could pull. But Ethan barely heard her. They had his daughter. They had taken her because of him, because he'd written a warning on a napkin, because he'd tried to do the right thing. "We'll find her." Vivian was kneeling in front of him, her hands on his shoulders, forcing him to look at her. "Do you hear me? We will find her." "You can't promise that." "No, but I can promise that I will spend every resource I have, every connection, every dollar, until we do. They took her to get to me, which means she's leverage, which means they need her alive. For how long?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. His phone buzzed again. Another message from the same unknown number. This time, it was a photo. Lila, sitting in what looked like the back of a van, her rabbit clutched to her chest, tears streaking her face, scared but alive. Below the photo, text. Tomorrow, 8 p.m., Navy Pier. Come alone with Vivian Hale or the girl dies. Tell anyone and she dies. Deviate from our instructions in any way and she dies. We'll be watching. Ethan showed Vivian the screen. Watched the fury flash across her face. "It's a trap," Jennifer said, reading over their shoulders. "They're trying to lure you both into an ambush." "I don't care," Ethan said. "It's suicide." "I don't care." He stood up, his legs steadier now, adrenaline and rage burning away the shock. "They have my daughter. They want us at Navy Pier. We go to Navy Pier. Ethan, she is 6 years old. She brought her stuffed rabbit because she thought we were going on an adventure. And now she's terrified in the back of a van because I tried to save someone I didn't even know." His voice was rising. "So yeah, it's a trap. And yeah, we're probably going to die. But at least I'll die trying instead of hiding behind security teams and contingency plans while my daughter waits for me to come save her." The room was silent. Vivian stood slowly. "He's right." "Miss Hales." "He's right, Jennifer. They took her because of me. Because I've spent 3 years pretending I could insulate myself from the damage I cause. Because I was arrogant enough to think I could control every variable." She looked at Ethan. I promised him I'd protect his daughter. I'm not breaking that promise. Jennifer's jaw tightened. Then we do it smart. We don't walk in blind. Agreed. We have... Vivian checked her watch. 23 hours. What can you do in 23 hours? A lot. If you're willing to break some laws, break whatever you need to break. Just get me a plan that brings that little girl home alive. The next day passed in a blur of activity that Ethan barely understood. Jennifer's team transformed Vivian's penthouse into a tactical operations center. Maps of Navy Pier covered every surface. Surveillance photos, satellite imagery, floor plans, escape routes. The pier is 1,000 feet long, Jennifer explained, pointing to the main structure. Multiple levels, dozens of entry points, hundreds of civilians at any given time. Perfect place for an ambush. Or for us to get lost in the crowd, Vivian said. They'll have counters for that. Spotters in the crowd, probably armed teams at every exit. So what do we do? Jennifer pulled up a new image. We cheat. She explained the plan. It was complicated. Required precise timing, depended on technology that might not work, and cooperation from agencies that technically shouldn't be involved. It had about 100 ways to go wrong, but it was better than nothing. Ethan listened, trying to follow, trying to contribute, but his mind kept drifting back to Lila. Was she eating? Was anyone being kind to her? Did she think he'd abandoned her? Ethan. Vivian touched his arm. Go get some rest. You're no good to her exhausted. I can't sleep. Then at least try to eat something. She led him to the kitchen, away from the controlled chaos of the operations center. Made him sit at the island while she pulled food from the refrigerator. It felt surreal, watching a billionaire make him a sandwich. You don't have to... I know. She slid the plate across to him. Eat anyway. He took a bite without tasting it, chewed mechanically, swallowed. I keep thinking about what you said, Vivian said quietly. She was leaning against the counter, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. About how I've been fighting my entire life. I shouldn't have... You were right. I have been fighting. Against my father, against Gideon, against everyone who thought I was too young or too female or too emotional to run this company. She paused. But somewhere along the way, fighting became all I knew how to do. I stopped seeing people, stopped caring about the damage. That's not true, isn't it? I put you and your daughter in danger the moment I asked for your help. I told myself it was necessary, that the ends justified the means, that I was protecting you. She met his eyes. But really, I was just using you, like I use everyone. Ethan set down the sandwich. You saved our lives, multiple times. That's not using someone. I saved you because you're useful to me. Bullshit. She blinked. Excuse me? You heard me. If you only cared about what I could do for you, you would have let me go after that first night, given me money, set me up somewhere safe, and moved on. He stood up. But you didn't. You brought me into your world, gave me a job, made sure Lila was protected. That's not using someone. That's caring whether they live or die. You don't know me well enough to... Maybe not. But I know what it looks like when someone's scared of being human. He stepped closer. I did it for 3 years after my wife died. Convinced myself that if I just kept my head down, worked hard enough, stayed numb enough, I could protect Lila from everything. But you can't protect people by shutting them out. You just end up alone. Vivian's expression cracked. Just for a second, just enough for him to see the loneliness underneath. I don't know how to be anything else, she said softly. Then learn. Starting with tomorrow. Starting with bringing my daughter home. She nodded. Once. Sharp. Okay. The rest of the day disappeared into preparation. Jennifer drilled them on the plan until Ethan could recite it in his sleep. Timing, positions, contingencies, what to do if things went wrong, which they probably would. At 6 p.m., Jennifer called everyone together. Last chance to back out, she said, looking at Ethan, not Vivian. Not a chance. You understand the risks? Yes. And you're still willing to do this? He thought about Lila, about her crooked braid and her flower dress, and the way she looked at him like he could fix anything. She's my daughter. I'd walk through hell for her. Jennifer nodded. All right then, let's go get her back. Navy Pier at dusk looked like something out of a postcard. Lights reflecting off the water, tourists laughing, street performers juggling fire, children eating cotton candy. Normal people living normal lives, completely unaware that somewhere in this crowd, a terrified little girl was waiting for her father to save her. Ethan and Vivian walked side by side through the entrance, both of them wired with concealed microphones and tracking devices that Jennifer swore were undetectable. Ethan wore jeans and a jacket that hid the body armor underneath. Vivian looked like she was heading to a business meeting. Expensive coat, heels, perfect posture. Two very different people. One very desperate plan. "You're sure about the location?" Ethan asked quietly. The text specified the Ferris wheel. "We'll know more when we get there." They walked in silence, Jennifer's voice a steady presence in their earpieces, confirming positions, tracking movements, coordinating the invisible net of agents scattered throughout the pier. The Ferris wheel loomed ahead, a giant circle of lights against the darkening sky. Ethan's phone buzzed. "Keep walking. Alone. Leave Hale at the entrance." He showed Vivian. "No," she said immediately. "It's not a negotiation." "Ethan, they have my daughter. I'm not arguing about this." Another text. "You have 10 seconds to comply or we kill her." Vivian grabbed his arm. "Don't do this. It's exactly what they want." "I know." He pulled away gently. "Jennifer, you're seeing this." "Copy. We're tracking your phone. Stay calm. We've got eyes on you." Ethan started walking toward the Ferris wheel. Behind him, Vivian called his name. He didn't turn around. Couldn't afford to second-guess himself. The crowd thinned as he approached the ride. Families were boarding the cars, laughing and pointing at the view. So much normalcy. So much oblivious safety. His phone buzzed again. "Car number 7. Get in. Alone." Car 7 was just loading. Empty. Waiting. Ethan climbed in and the door locked behind him with a metallic click that sounded like a jail cell closing. The wheel began to turn. As his car rose into the air, he looked down and saw Vivian standing at the entrance, small and still, watching him disappear into the sky. Saw Jennifer's agents scattered through the crowd, pretending to be tourists, their hands near their weapons. Saw the city spreading out below him, vast and indifferent, and then his car jerked to a stop at the very top of the wheel. "Hello, Ethan." He spun around. A man sat in the shadows at the far end of the car. Late 50s, distinguished, gray at the temples, expensive suit. The kind of face you'd trust with your money, your secrets, your life. Ethan had never seen him before, but he knew exactly who he was. "Gideon Voss." The man smiled. "I'm flattered you recognize me. Though I suppose Vivian must have shown you photos. Where's my daughter?" "Safe. For now." "Depends entirely on how this conversation goes." Gideon leaned forward, his hands folded like a therapist about to deliver bad news. "You've gotten yourself involved in something very complicated, Ethan, something that has nothing to do with you." "Then let us go." "I'm afraid it's not that simple. You see, Vivian has something I want, and you—" He gestured casually. "You appear to be the only thing in this world she actually cares about. That makes you valuable. She barely knows me. And yet she walked into a trap to save you, risked her entire security apparatus to protect your daughter. That's not nothing." Gideon's smile widened. "I've known Vivian since she was a child. Watched her build walls around herself brick by brick. Nothing gets through. Nothing penetrates. But you did. In less than a week you made her care. That's remarkable. What do you want?" "I want her to sign over controlling interest in Hale Industries. I want her to walk away from the empire she stole from me, and I want her to do it willingly. She'll never agree to that." "No? Even if her refusal means watching your daughter die?" Gideon pulled out a phone, tapped the screen, and held it up. The video showed Lila in a small room, concrete walls, single light bulb. She was sitting on a cot, her rabbit in her lap, her eyes red from crying. She looked so small, so breakable. "One phone call," Gideon said softly. "That's all it takes. She disappears. Forever. And Vivian spends the rest of her life knowing she chose corporate pride over a child's life." Ethan's hands clenched into fists. "You're a monster. I'm a businessman. There's a difference." Gideon pocketed the phone. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go back down there and convince Vivian to meet with me. Tonight. Alone. No security, no tricks. Just a simple conversation about her future. And if she refuses? Then Lila starts losing fingers, 1 per hour. He said it so casually, like he was discussing the weather. I find that motivates people quite effectively. The Ferris wheel lurched back into motion. As the car descended, Gideon stood. You have until midnight to deliver my message. I'll be waiting at the yacht club, slip 42. If Vivian doesn't show, well, he smiled. I'm sure you can imagine what happens next. The car reached the bottom. The door opened. Gideon stepped out and disappeared into the crowd like smoke. Ethan sat frozen, his mind racing, his heart pounding. Jennifer's voice crackled in his ear, asking if he was okay, asking what happened, asking for a status update. He couldn't answer. All he could see was Lila on that cot, alone and terrified, waiting for a father who might not be able to save her. Vivian was waiting at the bottom of the ramp, her face a mask of controlled terror. What happened? Where is she? He told her. Every word. Every threat. When he finished, she was silent for a long moment. The yacht club, she said finally. Slip 42. That's his private yacht, the Narcissus. I should have known. You're not actually considering... Of course I am. It's a trap. He'll kill you the moment you sign those papers. Probably. She met his eyes. But if there's even a 1% chance he'll let Lila go, I have to try. Vivian, she's 6 years old, Ethan. This is my fault, all of it. The poison, the attacks, the kidnapping. Gideon is right. I stole his company. I destroyed his reputation. I made myself a target, and your daughter is paying the price. Her voice cracked. So, yeah, I'm going to walk onto that yacht and give him exactly what he wants, because that's what you do when you actually care about someone. Jennifer appeared beside them, her expression grim. We heard everything. I've got teams mobilizing now. We can have the yacht surrounded in 20 minutes. No. Vivian's tone left no room for argument. He said no security. He meant it. Then at least let us put a tracker on you. Hidden camera. Something. He'll check for that. He's not an amateur. Neither am I. Jennifer pulled out what looked like a simple diamond earring. Embedded tracker. Completely undetectable unless you're specifically looking for it. And even then, she grinned. Good luck finding it. Vivian took the earring, put it on. What's the range? 3 miles. Real-time GPS. We'll know exactly where you are every second. And if something goes wrong, then we come in hard and fast and pray we're not too late. It wasn't a comfort, but it was something. Ethan grabbed Vivian's hand. Don't do this, please. There has to be another way. There isn't. You know there isn't. She squeezed his fingers. If I don't come back, don't. If I don't come back, take care of Lila. Make sure she knows none of this was her fault. Make sure she... Her voice broke. Make sure she has a good life. You're going to tell her yourself, because you're coming back. She smiled, sad and small and full of things she couldn't say. You're a terrible liar, Ethan Cole. Then she let go of his hand and walked away, her heels clicking against the pier boards, heading toward whatever hell waited for her at slip 42. Ethan watched her go, feeling more helpless than he'd ever felt in his life. Jennifer touched his shoulder. We're not going to let her die. You can't promise that. No. But I can promise we'll do everything possible to bring them both home. She pulled out a tablet, already showing live feed from the tracker. Come on, we've got work to do. The yacht club was the kind of place where money whispered instead of shouted. Polished teak docks stretched out over dark water that smelled like diesel and privilege. Security cameras dotted every lamppost, their red lights blinking like watching eyes. Ethan counted at least 3 guards in the parking lot alone, all of them trying and failing to look casual. Jennifer's command van was parked 2 blocks away, stuffed with enough technology to launch a satellite. Screens showed multiple angles of the marina, thermal imaging, audio feeds. A dozen agents waited on standby, weapons ready, faces grim. Ethan stood in the center of it all, useless. She's approaching the dock now, one of the tech operators said, pointing to a screen showing Vivian's heat signature moving steadily towards slip 42. Jennifer leaned over the operator's shoulder, her jaw tight. Any other movement? Negative. Yacht appears empty except for... Wait. The operator zoomed in. 2 signatures below deck. One stationary, one moving. Lila and a guard, Ethan said. His voice sounded hollow. Most likely. Jennifer pulled up another feed. We've got eyes on the yacht from 3 angles. The moment anything goes wrong. How will you know when something goes wrong? Ethan cut in. You can't hear what they're saying, can't see below deck. For all we know, Gideon could already be... He won't kill her immediately. He needs her signature on legal documents. That takes time. And after he gets what he wants? Jennifer didn't answer. She didn't have to. On the screen, Vivienne reached the yacht. The Narcissus was massive, all sleek lines and dark windows. Money floating on water. She stood at the gangway for a moment, her shoulders squared, her spine straight. Then she stepped aboard and disappeared from view. The next 10 minutes were the longest of Ethan's life. He paced the cramped van, watching screens that showed nothing useful, listening to radio chatter that meant nothing, feeling his daughter slip further and further out of reach. Why isn't anything happening? He finally asked. Because Gideon is smart, Jennifer said. He'll talk to her first. Make her think there's a way out of this that doesn't end in blood. He'll offer her deals, compromises, anything to make her believe she has control. Does she? Not even a little bit. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. So we just wait? We wait until we have a clear shot at extraction. Going in blind will get everyone killed. My daughter is on that boat. I know, and we will get her back, but not by being stupid. Before Ethan could respond, one of the operators spoke up. Movement. 3 heat signatures converging in the main cabin. Can you get audio? Working on it. The hull is interfering with... Hold on. The operator adjusted something, and suddenly the van filled with voices, distant and tinny, but audible. Gideon's voice came through first, smooth and paternal. You look well, Vivienne. Surviving suits you. Skip the pleasantries. Where's the girl? Safe? As promised. Though I must say I'm surprised you came alone. That's very unlike you. I came because you have a child, not because I trust you. A pause. Then Gideon laughed, the sound cold and amused. Still so sharp. I always admired that about you, even when you were destroying everything I built. You destroyed yourself. I just refused to go down with you. Is that what you tell yourself? That you are protecting the company? Saving it from my corruption? His voice hardened. I built Hale Industries from nothing, turned your father's failing textile business into a tech empire, and you repaid me by staging a coup. You were embezzling millions, bribing senators, laundering money through shell corporations. Don't pretend you were some kind of victim. I was doing what was necessary to survive in a world that doesn't reward weakness. But you were too naive to understand that. Too self-righteous. Ethan listened, his chest tight. This was the man who'd taken his daughter. This was the monster Vivienne had been running from for 3 years. I didn't come here to debate ethics with you, Vivienne said, her voice icy. You want the company. Fine, I'll sign whatever you want. Just let the girl go first. Oh, I don't think so. We'll do this my way. The sound of papers rustling. These documents transfer controlling interest in Hale Industries to a trust I've established. Sign them, and your little friend's daughter goes free. Refuse, and, well, you saw the video. How do I know you'll keep your word? You don't, but what choice do you have? Silence stretched out, taut as wire. Then Vivienne spoke again, quieter now. Before I sign, I want to see her. I want proof she's alive. Of course. Marcus? Footsteps. A door opening, and then, Daddy? Ethan's knees almost buckled. Lila's voice, small and scared and alive. Jennifer grabbed his arm, steadying him. It's okay, sweetheart, Vivienne said gently. Your daddy's waiting for you. We're going to get you back to him. I want to go home. I know, soon, I promise. That's enough. Gideon again. Take her back below. No, please! I want my daddy! Lila's voice rose, panicked, and Ethan could hear her struggling. Let me go! Let me... The sound cut off abruptly. A door slamming. Ethan turned to Jennifer, his face twisted with rage. We're going in, now! Not yet. She's terrified. She needs her father alive, not shot dead in a tactical operation gone wrong. Jennifer's voice was firm, but not unkind. 5 more minutes. Let Vivienne get the information we need. On the audio feed, papers were shuffling, a pen clicking. You understand what you're signing? Gideon asked. Perfectly. I'm giving a sociopath control of a $30 billion company. I'm sure you'll run it into the ground within 5 years. Such bitterness, and here I thought we were having a civil conversation. We're having a hostage negotiation. There's a difference. True, though I prefer to think of it as a business transaction. You get the child, I get the empire. Everyone wins. Except the thousands of people who depend on Hale Industries for their livelihoods. The innovations we're developing, the research that could actually help people. You'll strip it for parts and sell it to the highest bidder. Probably. But that's not your problem anymore, is it? To scratch a pen on paper. Jennifer leaned closer to the screen, watching Vivian's heat signature, looking for any sign of distress. There, Vivian said. It's done. Now let her go. Not quite. There's one more document. This one acknowledges that your removal from the company was voluntary, that you have no legal recourse to challenge the transfer. Standard procedure. That wasn't part of the deal. The deal is whatever I say it is. Sign it, or I put a bullet in the child's head and dump her body in the lake. Ethan moved toward the van door. Jennifer blocked him. Not yet, she hissed. He just threatened to kill her. He's bluffing. He needs Vivian compliant. Killing Lila before he gets what he wants defeats the purpose. You're gambling with my daughter's life. I'm doing my job. Trust me. On the audio feed, more paper rustling. Another signature. Excellent, Gideon said. You always were so reasonable when properly motivated. Now, Marcus will escort you off the yacht. The child will be released once you're safely away, and I verified these documents are legally binding. That's not what you promised. I promised she'd go free. I never specified when. Gideon's voice was full of mock sympathy. Come now, Vivian, surely you didn't think I'd let you walk away with all the leverage. You bastard. Careful, name-calling won't help the girl. Footsteps, movement. Vivian's heat signature was moving toward the deck. Wait, she said suddenly. What if the documents aren't valid? What if there's some legal technicality? Then I suppose I'll have to keep the child as insurance until my lawyers can sort it out. Could take weeks, months even. Such a shame. You're going to kill her anyway. You can't leave witnesses. Oh, I have no intention of killing anyone. I'm not a monster, Vivian. I'm just a man reclaiming what's rightfully his. A pause. Though I suppose Marcus might have different ideas. He's never liked loose ends. That was when Ethan knew. When he understood with absolute certainty that Gideon had never planned to let any of them leave alive. He pushed past Jennifer and was out of the van before anyone could stop him. Behind him, Jennifer was shouting orders, coordinating teams, but Ethan didn't care. He was running toward the marina, toward Slip 42, toward his daughter. His feet pounded against pavement, his lungs burned. The guards in the parking lot shouted at him to stop, but he didn't slow down. Couldn't slow down. He hit the dock at full speed, nearly slipping on the wet wood, catching himself and charging forward. The yacht was 100 yards away. 50. 20. Gunfire erupted behind him. Jennifer's team had engaged the guards. Ethan didn't look back, just kept running. His entire world narrowed to that single boat and the child trapped somewhere inside it. He reached the gangway and vaulted onto the deck just as Vivian appeared from below. Marcus's hand clamped around her arm. Their eyes met. Everything happened at once. Marcus went for his gun. Ethan tackled him, both of them crashing into the railing. The weapon skittered across the deck. Vivian dove for it, her heels useless on the slick surface, her hands closing around the grip just as Marcus threw Ethan off and lunged at her. She pulled the trigger. The shot went wide, punching through the cabin window. Marcus grabbed her wrist, twisting until she cried out and dropped the gun. Ethan scrambled to his feet, launching himself at Marcus again, throwing punches that were more desperation than technique. Marcus was bigger, stronger, trained. He caught Ethan's fist and used the momentum to flip him over, slamming him onto the deck hard enough to knock the air from his lungs. Ethan! Vivian grabbed the gun again, but Marcus was faster. He kicked it away and backhanded her across the face. She went down hard, blood streaming from her split lip. Marcus pulled another weapon from his jacket, smaller, a backup. He aimed it at Vivian's head. Nothing personal, he said. A gunshot cracked through the night. Marcus staggered, his hand going to his shoulder where blood was spreading across his shirt. He turned, confusion on his face. Gideon stood in the cabin doorway, a smoking pistol in his hand. I said no killing, Gideon said calmly. Not until I'm safely away. Marcus's face twisted with rage. You... Gideon shot him again. Center mass this time. Marcus dropped like a puppet with cut strings. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Gideon turned the gun toward Vivian. I really am sorry about this, he said. You were always my favorite. Even after everything, I had hoped we could come to some kind of understanding. Where's Lila? Ethan's voice was hoarse, broken. Below deck. Second cabin on the left. She's unharmed. I'm not a complete monster. Gideon's aim didn't waver. The problem is, Vivian here knows too much, and you've both become liabilities I can't afford. The documents, Vivian said, pushing herself upright. Her lip was still bleeding, but her voice was steady. You can't validate them if I'm dead. Actually, I can. I have your signature. My lawyers will argue that your death was tragic, but unrelated to the business transaction. An unfortunate boating accident. These things happen. He smiled. I've already set the charges. This yacht will be at the bottom of the lake in 15 minutes, and you'll both be remembered as victims of a terrible tragedy. You'll never get away with this. I already have. Jennifer's voice exploded through a loudspeaker from somewhere on the dock. Gideon Voss, you are surrounded. Lower your weapon and release the hostages. Gideon sighed. How tiresome. He fired 2 shots in quick succession, one at Vivian, one at Ethan. Ethan felt the impact before he heard the sound, a sledgehammer to his chest, knocking him backward. He hit the deck and couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but stare at the night sky spinning above him. Somewhere far away, more gunfire, shouting, boots on wood, and then Lila's voice screaming for him. He tried to move, tried to call out to her, but his body wouldn't obey. The world was fading at the edges, going dark and cold. The last thing he saw before the darkness took him was Vivian crawling toward him, her hand reaching for his, her face twisted with something that looked like grief. Ethan woke up to fluorescent lights and the smell of antiseptic. Hospital. He was in a hospital. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain exploded through his chest, sharp enough to make him gasp. Don't move. A nurse appeared at his bedside, pressing him gently back down. You've been shot. The vest stopped the bullet, but you've got cracked ribs and severe bruising. Lila. His voice was barely a whisper. My daughter, where? She's fine. She's right here. The nurse stepped aside, and there she was. Lila, curled up in a chair by the window, her rabbit clutched to her chest, fast asleep. She had a bandage on her arm and bruises on her wrists, but she was breathing. Alive. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. She hasn't left your side since they brought you in, the nurse said softly. Wouldn't let anyone take her anywhere else. Stubborn kid. Yeah, she gets that from her mother. I'll let the doctor know you're awake. The nurse left. Ethan lay there, staring at his daughter, feeling the weight of the past week crash over him. They'd survived. Somehow, impossibly, they'd survived. Vivian? He asked when the nurse returned. 2 doors down. She's stable. Bullet grazed her shoulder. She'll be fine. And Gideon? The nurse's expression darkened. Dead. Shot by federal agents during the raid. He tried to detonate the explosives early. They had to take him down. Ethan closed his eyes. It was over. Finally, impossibly, it was over. He spent the next hour drifting in and out of consciousness, the pain medication pulling him under and then releasing him back to the surface. At some point, Lila woke up. She saw he was awake and burst into tears, climbing carefully onto the bed beside him, her small body shaking with sobs. I was so scared, Daddy. I thought you were dead. I thought they killed you. I'm okay, baby. I'm right here. Don't leave me again. Please don't leave me. Never. I promise. Never again. She cried herself back to sleep in his arms, and Ethan held her, ignoring the pain in his ribs, ignoring everything except the feeling of her heartbeat against his chest. Jennifer showed up around noon with a tablet full of paperwork and an expression that suggested she'd aged 10 years in the past 24 hours. How are you feeling? She asked. Like I got shot. Fair. She pulled up a chair. I need to debrief you, but if you're not up for it, just tell me what happened after I went down. Jennifer nodded. We breached the yacht 30 seconds after Gideon opened fire. Found you and Vivian on the deck, Marcus dead, Gideon trying to trigger the explosives remotely, our team engaged. He returned fire. We had no choice. And Lila? Found her locked in a cabin below deck, scared but unharmed. The guard watching her surrendered immediately once he realized what was happening. The documents Vivian signed? Legally meaningless. She signed under duress. Our lawyers are already filing to have them declared invalid. Gideon's entire operation is falling apart. We've arrested 7 of his associates, seized his assets. It's going to take months to untangle the full extent of his network, but the immediate threat is gone. Ethan let that sink in. So we're safe? As safe as you're going to get. There might be stragglers, loyalists who don't know their boss is dead. But without Gideon's money and coordination, they're not a significant threat. That's not exactly reassuring. Best I can offer. Jennifer stood. Get some rest. We'll have more questions later, but for now, focus on recovery. She left, and Ethan was alone again with his sleeping daughter and the slow drip of IV medication and the knowledge that his life would never be the same. That evening, Vivian appeared in his doorway. She looked terrible, pale, exhausted, her arm in a sling, moving like every step hurt. But she was alive, and she was smiling. Can I come in? Yeah, of course. She moved carefully to the chair Jennifer had vacated, wincing as she sat. For a moment, neither of them spoke. I'm sorry, she said finally. For what? For all of it. For dragging you into this. For putting Lila in danger. For... Her voice cracked. For almost getting you killed. You saved my life multiple times. I endangered it first. Maybe. But I made my own choices. Nobody forced me to write that warning. Nobody forced me to help you. You did it because you're a good person. I did it because I was selfish and desperate and willing to use anyone to survive. She looked at Lila, still sleeping against Ethan's side. She's beautiful. Yeah, she is. I meant what I said, on the yacht, about getting her back to you. Vivian wiped her eyes. I thought he was going to kill us all, and all I could think was that I'd broken my promise, that you trusted me to protect her, and I failed. You didn't fail. She's here. We're all here. Barely. Barely counts. Vivian laughed, the sound wet and broken. You're too forgiving, and you're too hard on yourself. Maybe we both need therapy. Definitely. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching Lila sleep, watching the evening light fade through the hospital window. What happens now? Ethan asked eventually. I rebuild. Fix the damage Gideon did to the company. Root out anyone else who might be working against me. It's going to take years. She paused. What about you? I don't know. Go back to my apartment, I guess. Find a new job. Try to give Lila some kind of normal life. What if I offered you something different? Like what? Head of personal security, 6-figure salary, full benefits, college fund for Lila. You'd work directly for me, help rebuild the security protocols, make sure nothing like this ever happens again. Ethan stared at her. You're serious? Completely. You have instincts that saved my life. Twice. And you're someone I can actually trust. That's rare in my world. I don't know the first thing about corporate security. You'll learn. Jennifer will train you. And honestly, I don't need another professional who thinks they know everything. I need someone who will tell me when I'm being an idiot. You're being an idiot right now. See? Perfect fit. Vivian smiled. Think about it. No pressure. But the offer stands. She left before he could respond, her footsteps fading down the hallway, leaving Ethan alone with a choice he never thought he'd have to make. 2 days later, Ethan was released from the hospital with strict instructions to rest and avoid strenuous activity for at least 6 weeks. Lila held his hand as they walked to the car Jennifer had arranged, her grip tight, like she was afraid he might disappear if she let go. They drove to Vivian's penthouse. Their apartment was still a crime scene, and besides, Ethan wasn't ready to go back there yet. Too many memories, too much fear. Vivian met them at the door, her arms still in a sling, but looking better than she had in the hospital. Welcome, she said. I've set up the guest suite for you both. It's got 2 bedrooms, private bathroom, full kitchen. Stay as long as you need. We can't impose You're not imposing, you're recovering. She knelt down to Lila's level. How are you doing, sweetheart? Lila studied her solemnly. You saved my daddy. We saved each other. Are you friends now? Vivian glanced at Ethan, something unreadable in her expression. Yeah, I think we are. Good. Daddy needs friends. He's been sad for a long time. The adults exchanged a look over Lila's head, both of them caught off guard by a 6-year-old's brutal honesty. Well, Vivian said gently, maybe we can help each other be less sad. Okay, Lila nodded, satisfied, and marched into the penthouse like she owned the place. Ethan followed more slowly, his ribs aching with every breath, his mind still trying to process everything that had happened. She's something else, Vivian said, walking beside him. Yeah, she keeps me honest. Must be nice, having someone who sees through all the bullshit. It's terrifying, actually, but in a good way. They settled into a routine over the next few weeks. Physical therapy for Ethan, play therapy for Lila, working through the trauma of her kidnapping with a professional who specialized in childhood trauma. Quiet dinners in the penthouse with Vivian, who was slowly learning how to be human instead of a fortress. Jennifer stopped by regularly with updates. The investigation into Gideon's network was proceeding. More arrests, more evidence of corruption that went deeper than anyone had realized. It would be years before the full truth came out. But the immediate danger was over. And slowly, carefully, life began to feel almost normal again. One evening, about a month after the yacht, Ethan found Vivian on the balcony, staring out at the city lights. Can't sleep? He asked. Thinking. About? Everything. Nothing. She turned to face him. I keep replaying that moment on the yacht. When Gideon pulled the trigger, I thought we were dead, both of us. But we weren't. No. Because you wore the vest Jennifer insisted on, and because Gideon's aim was off, and because a dozen other tiny things broke in our favor instead of against us. She wrapped her arms around herself. It made me realize how fragile all of this is, how easily it could have ended differently. Welcome to being human. It's terrifying. She smiled faintly. Is it always like this? Pretty much. You just learn to live with it. I don't know if I can. You already are. You've been doing it for a month now, eating dinner with us, laughing at Lila's terrible jokes, letting yourself care about something other than the company. He moved to stand beside her at the railing. That's what being human looks like. It's exhausting. Yeah, but it beats the alternative. They stood in silence, watching the city breathe below them. Two people who'd survived hell and come out the other side changed. I have a confession, Vivian said quietly. What's that? I offered you that job partly because I trust you, but mostly because I don't want you to leave. Ethan's heart did something complicated in his chest. Vivian, I know, it's inappropriate. You've been through trauma. I've been through trauma. We're both a mess. But I need you to know that when I thought I was going to die on that yacht, the thing I regretted most wasn't losing the company. It was that I'd never told you how much you've changed my life. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're brave and stubborn and way too willing to sacrifice yourself for people you care about. I know you make terrible jokes when you're scared. I know you love your daughter more than anything in this world. She turned to face him fully. And I know that for the first time in 20 years, I don't feel alone. Ethan didn't know what to say. Didn't know how to respond to that level of honesty. So he just reached out and took her hand. She held on tight, like she was afraid of falling. And maybe she was. Maybe they both were. But at least they were falling together. The morning Ethan went back to his apartment, the sky was the color of old bruises. He'd put it off for 6 weeks, finding excuses to stay in Vivian's guest suite, telling himself Lila needed stability, that his ribs weren't healed enough, that the police might still need access to the crime scene. But Jennifer had called 3 days ago to say the investigation was complete. The apartment had been cleared. They could go home whenever they were ready. Except it didn't feel like home anymore. Vivian drove them herself, waving off Jennifer's offer of a security detail. She'd been doing that more lately, taking back small pieces of normalcy, insisting she didn't need armed guards for a trip to the grocery store or a drive across town. Ethan suspected it was less about confidence and more about proving something to herself. Lila sat in the back seat, her rabbit buckled in beside her, staring out the window without speaking. She'd been quieter since the kidnapping, not broken exactly, but changed. More watchful, like she was waiting for the next bad thing to happen. Ethan knew the feeling. The apartment building looked smaller than he remembered, shabbier. The security door hung slightly crooked on its hinges, never properly fixed after the break-in. Someone had tagged the wall near the mailboxes with spray paint that management hadn't bothered to clean. "You don't have to do this," Vivian said quietly. "The offer still stands. Stay with me, both of you. We've been imposing for over a month. You're not imposing. I like having you there." She glanced at him, then back at the building. "This place isn't safe. You know that." "Nowhere's really safe. We just pretend better in some places than others." She didn't argue, but he could see the tension in her jaw. They climbed the stairs to the third floor. The elevator was broken again, and Ethan unlocked the door with hands that shook slightly. The apartment smelled stale, like trapped air and old coffee. Everything was exactly where he'd left it the night they fled. Lila's drawings on the refrigerator, his work shoes by the door, the dishes in the sink that he'd meant to wash. A lifetime ago. Lila walked through slowly, touching things like she was relearning them. Her bookshelf, her bed, the stuffed elephant she'd left behind because the rabbit was her favorite. "Daddy," she called from her room, "can we go back now?" Ethan's chest tightened. "Back where, baby?" "To Miss Vivian's. I don't like it here anymore." Vivian appeared in the doorway behind him. "It's okay to not like it. This place has bad memories now." "The bad men came here." "They did. But they're gone now. They can't hurt you anymore." Lila considered this, her small face serious. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." "But you said no one could hurt me at the safe house, and they did." The room went very quiet. Vivian knelt down, bringing herself to Lila's eye level. "You're right, I did say that, and I was wrong. I thought I could protect you from everything, and I couldn't." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "But I can promise you something else. I can promise that your dad and I will do everything in our power to keep you safe, and that if bad things happen, we won't lie to you about it." "That's a weird promise." "Yeah, but it's an honest one." Lila thought about this for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, can we bring my elephant?" "Of course." While Lila packed her favorite things, Ethan stood in the kitchen, staring at the crime scene tape still stuck to the doorframe. Vivian came to stand beside him. "You're not coming back here, are you?" she asked. "No, probably not." "Good. This place is depressing." "It was what I could afford." "Was." Past tense. She pulled an envelope from her jacket pocket. "Your first paycheck. Backdated to when you started working for me." Ethan opened it. The number made his vision blur. "This is too much." "It's exactly what we agreed on, plus hazard pay, which you definitely earned." "Vivian, take it. Use it to find a better place. Somewhere Lila can have her own room and you don't have to worry about broken security doors." She met his eyes. "Or keep staying with me. That's better too." "People will talk. Let them. I've been the subject of gossip for 20 years. What's a little more?" He wanted to argue. Wanted to maintain some kind of independence, some proof that he wasn't just another person living off Vivian's money. But looking around the apartment, at the water stains on the ceiling, the neighbors shouting through thin walls, the window that didn't quite close all the way, he couldn't find a good reason to stay. "One condition," he said. "What's that?" "I pay rent. Market rate. I'm not a charity case." "You're impossible." "So I've been told." She smiled, and something warm flickered in her expression. "Fine. We'll draw up a lease, make it all official and proper." "Thank you." "Stop thanking me. You saved my life, remember? I'm pretty sure I still owe you." They packed up the apartment in silence, boxing up 3 years of struggling and surviving and trying to build something resembling a life. Most of it wasn't worth keeping. Furniture from thrift stores, clothes that didn't quite fit anymore, kitchen supplies from dollar stores that had never worked properly anyway. But Lila's things, her books, her toys, the drawings she'd made, the photographs of her mother, those went carefully into boxes that Vivian carried to the car like they were made of glass. By the time they finished, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Ethan took one last look at the apartment, at the place where he'd raised his daughter alone, where he'd cried himself to sleep more nights than he could count. where he'd learned that love and exhaustion could coexist in the same breath. Then he locked the door and walked away. The next morning, Jennifer showed up at the penthouse with a file folder and an expression that meant business. "We have a problem," she said, spreading documents across Vivian's dining table. "3 of Gideon's associates are still unaccounted for. We thought they'd scattered after his death, but we're seeing activity." "What kind of activity?" Vivian asked. "Communication intercepts, encrypted messages referencing unfinished business and the Hale situation. Someone's organizing, and whoever it is has resources." Ethan felt his stomach drop. "I thought this was over." "It is. Mostly. But there are always loose ends." Jennifer pulled up a photo on her tablet. "This is Daniel Reeves, former head of Gideon's private security. Went dark 3 weeks ago. We think he's the one coordinating the remaining loyalists." "What does he want?" "Revenge, probably. Gideon paid him very well. With Gideon dead and the money seized, Reeves is looking at serious prison time. He's got nothing to lose." "So what do we do?" Vivian's voice was calm, but Ethan could see the tension in her shoulders. "We find him first. Cut off the head of the snake before it can strike." Jennifer tapped the tablet. "I've got teams tracking his known associates, monitoring communications, but I need you both to stay vigilant. Vary your routines. Don't go anywhere without security." "I'm not living in a cage again," Vivian said sharply. "I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to be smart." "How long?" "Could be days, could be weeks. These things don't follow a schedule." After Jennifer left, Ethan found Vivian on the balcony again, staring out at the city like it was a puzzle she couldn't solve. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm tired. Tired of looking over my shoulder. Tired of waiting for the next attack. Tired of—" She stopped, shaking her head. "Sorry, you don't need to hear this." "Actually, I think I do. We're in this together, remember?" She turned to face him, and for the first time he saw real vulnerability in her eyes. Not the controlled version she showed in meetings. Not the calculated openness she used to manipulate business partners. Just raw, honest fear. "I don't know how to do this," she said quietly. "The whole normal life thing, having people I care about. It terrifies me more than any corporate takeover or assassination attempt ever could." "Why?" "Because I can control business. I can strategize, plan, outmaneuver. But this?" She gestured between them. "I have no idea what I'm doing. And the thought of losing it, losing you and Lila, it makes me want to run back to my fortress and lock the door." Ethan stepped closer. "You know what I've learned in the past 2 months?" "What?" "That being terrified and doing it anyway is pretty much the definition of courage. You think I wasn't scared every single day after my wife died? That I didn't want to give up, hand Lila over to someone more qualified, someone who wasn't drowning?" He touched her hand gently. "But I didn't, because she needed me. And right now I think maybe you need us too." "That sounds like codependency." "Maybe. Or maybe it's just what family looks like when it's messy and imperfect and real." She laughed, the sound wet and broken. "Family, that's a terrifying word." "Yeah, but in a good way." They stood there for a long moment, the city breathing below them, 2 people learning how to be vulnerable without falling apart. The attack came 4 days later. Ethan was walking Lila to school, a private academy 3 blocks from the penthouse that Vivian had insisted on paying for despite his protests. Jennifer had assigned them a security detail, but Ethan had convinced them to hang back, to let Lila feel normal for 20 minutes. It was a mistake. They were halfway down the block when Ethan felt it. That same instinct that had saved Vivian in the restaurant, screaming at him that something was wrong. A car was idling at the corner, engine running, windows tinted, parked illegally. Another car behind them. Same setup. "Lila," he said quietly, "hold my hand. Don't let go." "Daddy?" "Just trust me." He started walking faster, pulling her toward the school entrance that was suddenly too far away. Behind them, he heard car doors opening. "Ethan Cole." He turned. 3 men spreading out to block the sidewalk. The one in the middle was older, military-bearing, dead eyes. Daniel Reeves. "I need you to come with us," Reeves said. His voice was polite, almost friendly. "You and the girl. No one needs to get hurt." Ethan positioned himself in front of Lila. "Not a chance." "I wasn't asking." And I wasn't negotiating. You want me, fine. But she stays here. I'm afraid that's not how this works. See, Ms. Hale needs motivation, and your daughter is very motivating. Ethan's hand went to his phone. Reeves pulled a gun. Don't. Hands where I can see them. Behind Ethan, Lila made a small, frightened sound. He could feel her trembling, her small hand gripping his jacket. Please, Ethan said. She's 6 years old. She's been through enough. So has everyone. Life's unfair that way. Reeves gestured with the gun. Car, now, or I start shooting pedestrians until you comply. Ethan's mind raced. The security detail was 2 blocks away. Too far. He had no weapon, no backup, no options. Just a terrified daughter and a choice that would haunt him either way. And then Lila did something Ethan would never forget. She stepped out from behind him, her chin raised, her eyes blazing with a fury that looked exactly like her mother. You're a bad man, she said. Her voice shook, but it didn't break. And I'm not going with you. Reeves actually smiled. Brave kid. I respect that. But bravery doesn't stop bullets. Neither does being stupid, said a voice from behind them. Vivienne stepped out of a storefront flanked by 4 armed security guards. She looked calm, composed, like she was attending a board meeting instead of a hostage situation. Hello, Daniel. It's been a while. Reeves's expression shifted, calculation replacing confidence. Ms. Hale, I wasn't expecting you. I know. That was the point. She moved closer, her guards spreading out to cover all angles. Jennifer told me you might try something, so I've been following Ethan and Lila every morning, just in case. Smart, but not smart enough. I've got a gun on your boyfriend and his kid. Ex-employee. And yes, you do, which means you have about 5 seconds before my security team puts 3 rounds in your chest. She checked her watch. 4, 3. You're bluffing. 2. Reeves looked at his companions, looked at the guards, looked at Vivienne's face, and saw whatever cold certainty lived there. He lowered the gun. Smart choice, Vivienne said. Now tell me what you want, and make it quick. I have a board meeting in an hour. Gideon's estate, the assets you seized, I want compensation for my years of service. You want money for helping a murderer try to kill me? I want what I'm owed. You're owed a prison cell, but I'll make you a deal. Walk away right now, disappear, and I won't have you arrested. Stay, and you're looking at 20 years minimum. That's not much of a deal. It's the only one you're getting. Take it or leave it. Reeves stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly, he holstered his weapon. This isn't over, he said. Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet. Reeves and his men backed away, climbing into their cars, driving off into morning traffic. The moment they were gone, Ethan's legs gave out. He sat down hard on the sidewalk, pulling Lila into his arms, shaking so badly he could barely hold her. Vivienne knelt beside them. Are you okay? No, not even a little bit. He looked up at her. How did you know? I didn't, but I suspected, and I wasn't going to risk it. She touched Lila's hair gently. You were very brave, sweetheart. I was scared. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing it anyway. That's what Daddy says. Your daddy's a smart man. Jennifer arrived with police backup 10 minutes later, her face a mask of controlled fury. I told you to wait for the security detail, she said to Ethan. I know. You could have been killed, both of you. I know. Do you understand how close? She stopped, taking a breath. Reeves is gone. We're tracking his vehicle, but he's smart. He'll dump it, switch cars, go underground. Will he come back? Ethan asked. I don't know, maybe. But we'll be ready. She looked at Vivienne. You need to press charges. Make this official. Already done. I called my lawyers on the way here. Good. We'll coordinate with local PD, get warrants issued, freeze any remaining assets connected to Gideon's network. Jennifer paused. But you all need to understand something. As long as Vivienne is alive and running that company, there will always be people who want to hurt her. This won't be the last threat. So what do? Ethan asked. We get better, smarter. We stop assuming the danger is over just because the immediate crisis passed. She looked directly at Vivienne. And you stop trying to be normal. Normal gets you killed. You need full security, all the time, no exceptions. Vivienne's jaw tightened, but she nodded. They spent the rest of the day in lockdown at the penthouse, while Jennifer's team swept for threats and coordinated with law enforcement. Lila was quiet, processing what had happened in whatever way 6-year-olds processed near-death experiences. That night, after Lila was finally asleep, Ethan found Vivian in her office, surrounded by contracts and financial reports, working like nothing had happened. "You should rest," he said. "Can't. Too much to do." "Vivian, if I stop, I'll think about it. About how close we came. About what could have happened." She looked up and her eyes were red. "I can't think about that, not right now." Ethan walked around the desk and gently took the papers from her hands. "Then don't think, just feel." "I don't know how." "Sure you do. You just spent 20 years convincing yourself you didn't." She stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "Every time I let myself care about something, it gets taken away. My mother, my father, the company. Gideon tried to steal it, and now you and Lila." Her voice broke. "I can't lose you. I can't go through that again." "You won't." "You can't promise that." "No, but I can promise I'm not going anywhere by choice. And neither is Lila. We're here. We're staying. And you're going to have to deal with actually having a family. I don't know how to do that." "Neither do I. My wife's been dead for 3 years, and I still set the table for 3 people sometimes. I still hear Lila crying in the middle of the night and think Sarah's going to handle it." He moved closer. "We're both disasters. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we can be disasters together." She laughed, the sound shaky and raw. "That's the worst sales pitch I've ever heard." "Yeah, well, I'm not great at this either." Vivian turned to face him fully, and something in her expression shifted, softened. "Ethan?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for not letting me." They stood there in the quiet office, 2 broken people learning how to be whole, and for the first time in weeks, Ethan felt something like hope. The investigation into Reeves took 3 more weeks. They found him in a motel outside Gary, Indiana, trying to arrange passage to Mexico. Jennifer's team moved in fast and clean. No shots fired, no casualties. Just a tired, middle-aged man realizing his war was over. The arrest made national news, another piece of Gideon Voss's empire dismantled, another threat neutralized. But Ethan barely noticed. He was too busy learning his new job, stumbling through security protocols and corporate politics, making mistakes and getting better slowly. Lila started at her new school and hated it for exactly 2 weeks before making a friend named Sophie, who collected rocks and knew all the words to Hamilton. After that, she came home chattering about her day, her nightmares becoming less frequent, her smile coming easier. And Vivian was learning how to be human. It started small. Eating breakfast with them instead of working through it, asking Lila about school, laughing at Ethan's terrible jokes. Then bigger things. Taking Saturdays off, attending Lila's school recital, sitting through a children's play about recycling without checking her phone once. One evening, about 6 weeks after Reeves's arrest, Ethan found her in the living room, sprawled on the couch with Lila, watching some animated movie about talking animals. "I thought you had a conference call," he said. "Canceled it. This is more important." Lila was asleep against her shoulder, mouth open, drooling slightly on Vivian's very expensive silk blouse. Vivian didn't seem to care. "Who are you, and what did you do with Vivian Hale?" Ethan teased. "Funny? Sit. You're missing the best part." He sat and somehow ended up with Vivian's head on his shoulder, Lila sprawled across both of them, a tangle of limbs and warmth, and something that felt dangerously close to family. "This is weird," Vivian murmured. "Good weird or bad weird? I don't know yet. Ask me in a year." On screen, the talking animals were learning important lessons about friendship and believing in yourself. Lila snored softly. The city glittered outside the windows, and for the first time since his wife died, Ethan felt like maybe, possibly, things were going to be okay. Not perfect. Never perfect. But okay was enough. 6 months after the last threat disappeared, Ethan stood in front of a classroom for the first time in 8 years. 23 second graders stared back at him with the kind of brutal honesty only 7-year-olds could manage. One kid in the front row was picking his nose. Another was crying because someone had stolen her purple crayon. A third was building what appeared to be a fortress out of textbooks. "Hi," Ethan said, his voice cracking slightly. "I'm Mr. Cole. I'm going to be your student teacher for the next few months. The nose picker raised his hand. Are you nervous? Terrified, actually. My mom says adults aren't supposed to admit that. Your mom's probably right, but I'm doing it anyway. The kid considered this, then nodded approvingly and went back to his excavation project. Returning to school had been Vivian's idea. She'd found him one morning staring at his incomplete degree requirements, doing math in his head about how long it would take to finish while working full-time. What if you didn't have to choose, she'd asked. Between what and what? Between working and studying. What if you could do both? Part-time security consulting for me, part-time finishing your degree. I'll cover tuition. That's too much. It's an investment. You'll be insufferable once you're educated. I'm preparing myself for the inevitable. He'd argued, of course. Told her he couldn't accept more help, that he needed to do this himself, that he'd already taken too much from her. She'd pulled out a contract she'd already drafted, education expenses in exchange for 3 more years of security consulting, legally binding, professional. Stop trying to be noble, she'd said. Just say yes. So he had. Now, 6 months later, he was standing in a classroom, teaching phonics and basic math, learning that second graders were simultaneously the most exhausting and most honest people on the planet. Mr. Cole? A small girl with braids raised her hand. Do you have kids? I have a daughter. She's 6, almost 7. What's her name? Lila. That's pretty. Does she go to school here? Different school, but close by. Do you miss her when you're teaching us? The question hit him harder than it should have. Yeah, I do. That's okay. My dad misses me too when he's at work. He told me. She smiled, gap-toothed and sincere. But he says missing people means you love them. Your dad sounds smart. He's okay. He burns toast a lot, though. The class laughed, and Ethan felt something warm expand in his chest. This was good, hard, exhausting, occasionally chaotic, but good. After school, he drove to pick up Lila from her aftercare program. She came running out with paint in her hair and a drawing clutched in her fist. Daddy, look what I made! The drawing showed 3 stick figures holding hands, one tall with messy hair, him, one small with a rabbit, her, and one with long dark hair and what appeared to be a briefcase, Vivian. That's our family, Lila announced proudly. Ethan's throat tightened. It's beautiful, baby. Can we hang it on the fridge when we get home? Home. She meant Vivian's penthouse. They'd been living there for almost 7 months now, and somewhere along the way, it had stopped being temporary. Yeah, of course we can. When they got back, Vivian was already there, which was unusual. She typically worked until 7 or 8, often later. But lately, she'd been leaving earlier, making it home for dinner more often than not. How was school? She asked, loosening her tie as Lila launched herself into a hug. I made art. Look. Vivian studied the drawing seriously. This is excellent work, very accurate, though I think you made me too tall. You are tall. You're taller than Daddy. Only when I wear heels. You always wear heels. Good point. They hung the drawing on the refrigerator with the dozen others Lila had made, a gallery of their strange, cobbled-together family. Over dinner, takeout Chinese that Vivian had stopped pretending to be too sophisticated for, Lila chattered about her day, about Sophie and their rock collection, about the boy in her class who ate glue on a dare. Ethan watched Vivian listen, really listen, asking follow-up questions and laughing at the right moments. 6 months ago, she would have been checking her phone, mentally composing emails, only half present. Now she was here, fully, completely here. After Lila went to bed, Ethan found Vivian in her office, but she wasn't working. She was just sitting at her desk, staring at nothing. You okay? He asked. I got an offer today, from a private equity firm. They want to buy Hale Industries. Ethan's stomach dropped. What did you say? I said I'd think about it. Are you seriously considering it? She turned to face him. $3 billion, Ethan. Enough to walk away from all of this. No more threats, no more corporate espionage, no more looking over my shoulder. And do what? I don't know, that's the problem. This company has been my entire life since I was 23. I don't know who I am without it. He sat down across from her. So figure it out. Just like that? Yeah, just like that. You're smart, you're driven, you care about things, even though you spent 20 years pretending you didn't. You could do anything. That's terrifying. Good. Terrifying means you're growing. She smiled faintly. When did you become so wise? Around the time I started teaching second graders. They have no filter. It's very educational. Vivian was quiet for a long moment, her fingers drumming on the desk. What if I'm bad at being normal? You're already bad at being normal. That's what makes you interesting. I'm serious. So am I. Vivian, you've spent your entire life fighting. Against your father, against Gideon, against everyone who said you couldn't run this company. Maybe it's time to stop fighting and start building something different. Like what? Like a life. A real one. With people you care about and things that matter beyond profit margins and stock prices. I don't know if I can. Then learn. You learned how to run a multi-billion-dollar company. You can learn how to be happy. She looked at him with something that might have been hope. What if I sell the company and regret it? Then you buy another company, or start a nonprofit, or become a professional competitive chess player. I don't know. The point is, you'll have choices. When's the last time you had real choices? Never, she admitted. Exactly. So maybe it's time. 3 weeks later, Vivian called a board meeting. Ethan wasn't there. He was teaching a lesson on fractions, but she told him about it that evening, sitting on the balcony while Lila did homework inside. I told them I'm stepping down as CEO, she said. Not selling, just stepping back. Jennifer's taking over operations. I'll stay on the board, maintain majority control, but day-to-day management is hers now. How did they take it? Half of them thought I was having a breakdown. The other half started calculating how to leverage the transition for their own benefit. She shrugged. Business as usual. How do you feel? Like I just jumped off a cliff and I'm not sure if there's water at the bottom or rocks. That's called being alive. Welcome to the club. She laughed, the sound lighter than he'd heard in months. So what do I do now? Whatever you want. That's kind of the whole point. I was thinking... She paused, like she was testing the words. I was thinking maybe I could audit some classes at the university. Philosophy, maybe? Or art history? Something completely impractical. That sounds perfect. Does it? I have no idea what I'm doing. Nobody does. We're all just pretending and hoping nobody notices. That's deeply unsettling. Yeah, but it's also kind of freeing. Once you accept that everyone's faking it, you can stop trying to be perfect and just be yourself. Vivian leaned back in her chair, staring up at the sky. I spent so long building walls to keep people out, and now I'm tearing them down and I have no idea what's on the other side. People who care about you. A daughter who thinks you're the coolest person ever. A guy who's pretty sure he's in love with you but is terrified to say it out loud in case it ruins everything. She sat up abruptly. What? Ethan's heart was hammering. I probably shouldn't have said that. No, say it again. I'm in love with you. Have been for months. Maybe since the yacht, maybe earlier. I don't know exactly when it happened, just that it did. The words tumbled out faster now. And I know it's complicated. I know we come from different worlds. I know I'm a broke student teacher and you're a billionaire and this whole thing is probably a terrible idea. But I can't keep pretending I don't feel it. Vivian stared at him, her expression unreadable. Say something, he said. I'm processing. That's not very reassuring. Ethan, she stopped, taking a breath. I've never been in love? Not really. I thought I was once in college, but that was just infatuation with someone who seemed safe. This is... She gestured helplessly between them. This is terrifying. You make me want things I never thought I could have. A family, a home, a life that isn't just surviving. Is that a yes or a no? It's a, I don't know how to do this, but I want to try. That works. She smiled and it transformed her whole face. Yeah? Yeah. He kissed her, and it felt like falling and flying at the same time, like every terrible decision and lucky break that had led them to this moment suddenly made sense. When they finally pulled apart, she was laughing. What? He asked. I just sold my company to kiss a waiter. Former waiter. Current student teacher. Get it right. My mistake. They sat together on the balcony, watching the city lights flicker on one by one. Two people who'd survived hell and found something like happiness on the other side. Inside, Lila called out that she needed help with her homework. Vivian stood, offering him her hand. "Come on, let's go be a family. I like the sound of that." "Me too." The next 6 months passed in a blur of ordinary moments that felt extraordinary. Vivienne enrolled in 3 classes at Northwestern: philosophy, art history, and creative writing. She was terrible at creative writing, brilliant at philosophy, and unexpectedly passionate about Renaissance art. "I spent my whole life thinking humanities were useless," she told Ethan one night, surrounded by textbooks. "But learning about how people thought, what they valued, why they created, it makes everything else make sense." Ethan finished his degree in early childhood education and got hired at Lila's school. The pay was terrible compared to what Vivienne had been paying him for security consulting, but he didn't care. He loved the work, loved watching kids learn to read, loved helping them discover that math could be fun, loved being the teacher he'd needed when he was young and struggling. Lila thrived. Her nightmares stopped almost entirely. She made friends. She joined the school choir and discovered she had a voice that could shatter glass, not always in a good way, but enthusiastically. And Vivienne learned how to be part of a family. It wasn't smooth. She forgot Lila's school recital twice, got frustrated when dinner conversation didn't have an agenda, struggled with the concept of doing nothing productive on weekends. But she tried. And slowly, trying turned into knowing. Knowing turned into being. One Sunday morning, Ethan woke to find Vivienne and Lila in the kitchen, attempting to make pancakes. The kitchen was a disaster. Flour covered every surface. Something was burning. Lila was laughing hysterically. "What's happening?" he asked. "We're making breakfast," Vivienne said, flipping a pancake that was somehow both raw and burnt. "It's going poorly." "I can see that." "But it's fun, right, Lila?" "So fun. Miss Vivienne let me crack the eggs and I only got a little bit of shell in the bowl." "Define a little bit." "Like maybe half the shell." Ethan rescued the pancakes, salvaged what he could of the batter, and they ate breakfast together. Imperfect, slightly crunchy pancakes that tasted like home. Later that day, while Lila was at Sophie's house, Vivienne and Ethan went for a walk along the lake. "I have something to tell you," Vivienne said. "That sounds ominous." "It's not. At least, I don't think it is." She stopped walking, turning to face him. "I bought a house." "What?" "A house. In Evanston. 4 bedrooms, big yard, terrible plumbing that needs fixing. I bought it." "When?" "Last week. I've been waiting for the right time to tell you." "Why didn't you?" "Because I wanted to be sure first. Sure that this was real. That you weren't going to wake up one day and realize you'd made a terrible mistake getting involved with me." "Vivienne's, let me finish. I've spent my entire life thinking I wasn't built for this. For love, for family, for any of it. I thought I was too damaged, too cold, too fundamentally broken." She took his hands. "But you and Lila, you make me want to be different, better. And I realize that this penthouse, for all its luxury, isn't a home. It's a fortress. And I don't want to live in a fortress anymore." Ethan's chest felt tight. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying I want us to have a home together, a real one. With a yard for Lila and a kitchen we can destroy making terrible pancakes and neighbors who complain about noise." She paused. "I'm saying I want to marry you, if you'll have me." He stared at her, his mind struggling to catch up. "That's not how proposals usually work," he said finally. "I'm aware, but I've never done anything conventionally. Why start now?" "You're serious?" "Completely. I love you, Ethan. I love Lila. I love the life we're building together, messy and imperfect and real, and I want to make it official." "I don't have a ring to give you." "I don't need a ring. I need an answer." He kissed her, and it felt like every good decision he'd ever made led to this moment. "Yes," he said. "Obviously, yes." She smiled, bright and genuine and free. "Good, because I already told Lila and she's very excited about having a bigger room." "You told her before asking me?" "She's the smart one in this relationship. I needed her approval first." They got married 3 months later in a small ceremony at the Evanston house, surrounded by the people who mattered. Jennifer was there, looking uncomfortable in a dress but smiling anyway. Sarah, who'd protected Lila at the safe house and had become a family friend. Some of Ethan's colleagues from school. A few of Vivienne's former executives who'd remained loyal through everything. And Lila, wearing a yellow dress and carrying a basket of flowers, looking so much like her mother that Ethan's heart ached. The ceremony was short. No religious elements, just simple vows about choosing each other every day, about building something real together, about family and love and the courage to be vulnerable. When it was over, Lila hugged them both. "We're a real family now, right?" "We've always been a real family," Vivian said. "This just makes it official." "Good. Because I already told Sophie you're my mom now. Is that okay?" Vivian's eyes filled with tears. "Yeah, sweetheart. That's more than okay." The reception was in the backyard, casual and warm, and nothing like the society weddings Vivian had attended her whole life. People ate barbecue and drank beer and laughed too loud. Lila and Sophie chased fireflies. Someone's uncle tried to teach Jennifer how to line dance. It was chaotic and imperfect and absolutely perfect. Later that night, after everyone had left and Lila was asleep in her new room, Ethan and Vivian sat on their back porch, watching stars appear in the darkening sky. "I never thought I'd have this," Vivian said quietly. "What?" "Happiness. Real happiness, not just the absence of misery. I thought people like me didn't get this." "People like you?" "Broken, damaged, too far gone to be saved." Ethan took her hand. "You were never broken, just scared. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yeah, broken things can't be fixed. Scared people just need a reason to be brave." "And you're my reason?" "We're each other's reason. That's how this works." She leaned against him, and they sat in comfortable silence, two people who'd found each other in the wreckage and built something beautiful. The years that followed weren't perfect. Ethan struggled with imposter syndrome at work, convinced he wasn't good enough, that he'd somehow fooled everyone into thinking he deserved to be there. Vivian had panic attacks sometimes, triggered by stress or loud noises or anniversaries of the attacks. She'd disappear into herself and Ethan would have to patiently pull her back. Lila had nightmares occasionally, waking up crying about the men who'd taken her, about being locked in the van. They got her therapy, worked through it together, but the scars didn't disappear completely. But they learned to navigate the hard parts together. Ethan learned to tell Vivian when he was struggling instead of trying to handle everything alone. Vivian learned to ask for help instead of defaulting to cold competence. Lila learned that being scared was okay, that she didn't have to be brave all the time. They became a family not in spite of their damage, but because of how they chose to heal together. 5 years after the wedding, Ethan stood in front of his classroom on the last day of school. "Mr. Cole," one of his students asked, "are you going to cry?" "Maybe. You guys were a good class." "Are you coming back next year?" "Yeah, I'll be here." "Good. Because you're way better than Ms. Peterson was last year. She never admitted when she was wrong about stuff." "Ms. Peterson was an excellent teacher." "Yeah, but you're more fun, and you bring the cool snacks." After school, he drove home, the words still filled him with quiet joy, to find Vivian and Lila in the yard, planting tomatoes in the garden they'd started the previous spring. "How was the last day?" Vivian asked, wiping dirt on her jeans without seeming to notice. "Good. Emotional. The kids gave me a card they all signed." "Let me see." He showed her. 23 signatures, some barely legible, accompanied by drawings and messages like, "You're the best teacher ever, and thanks for not yelling when I puked on your shoes." "That's quite an endorsement," Vivian said, laughing. "I'm very proud of the no yelling thing. It took real effort." Lila ran over, covered in dirt and grinning. "Daddy, can we get a dog now? We've talked about this, but I'm 12 now. I'm responsible. I can take care of it." "That's what you said about the goldfish." "Mr. Bubbles lived for 3 whole months. That's basically a record." "The average lifespan of a goldfish is 10 years, Lila." "Okay, but Mr. Bubbles was clearly defective." Vivian tried not to laugh and failed. "She makes a compelling argument. Don't encourage her." "I'm not encouraging. I'm just saying that maybe a dog isn't the worst idea. We have the yard for it now." "You two are ganging up on me." "Yes," they said in unison. He looked at them, his wife and daughter, covered in dirt, conspiring against him with matching grins, and felt his resistance crumble. "Fine. But we're adopting from a shelter, and you're in charge of the late-night bathroom breaks, Lila." "Deal!" She hugged him, leaving muddy handprints on his shirt, and ran inside to start researching dog breeds. Vivian moved to stand beside him. You're a softie. I'm aware. It's one of my favorite things about you. Just one of them? Well, you also make excellent pancakes, and you're decent in bed, and you somehow convinced me that being happy was possible. She kissed his cheek. So I'd say you have several redeeming qualities. High praise. They went inside together, to the house they'd made a home, to the life they'd built from the wreckage of everything that came before. That night, after Lila was asleep and they were getting ready for bed, Vivian said, "Do you ever think about that night at the restaurant?" "Sometimes." "Why?" "I was thinking about what would have happened if you hadn't written that warning, if you just ignored what you saw and gone back to the kitchen. I'd probably still be working there, broke and exhausted and slowly dying inside. And I'd be dead, poisoned by someone I trusted. Or you would have caught it yourself. You're smart. You would have figured it out. Maybe. Or maybe I needed someone to care enough to take the risk. Someone who saw a person instead of a billionaire." She turned to face him. "You saved my life, Ethan. Not just physically. You gave me a reason to want to be saved. You did the same for me. I was drowning before I met you, going through the motions, pretending I was okay for Lila's sake. But I wasn't okay. I was just surviving. And now? Now I'm living. Because of you. Because of us." She kissed him, slow and gentle. "I love you. I love you too." They fell asleep tangled together, two people who'd found each other in the darkness and chosen to build something bright. Looking back now, Ethan understood something he hadn't seen at the time. Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about being terrified and choosing to act anyway. It's about writing a warning on a napkin when you have everything to lose. It's about trusting a stranger who offers you protection. It's about tearing down the walls you've spent a lifetime building because someone makes you want to be vulnerable. He'd saved Vivian's life that night in the restaurant, but she'd saved his too. Saved him from a slow death of exhaustion and loneliness. Saved him from the belief that he didn't deserve more than scraping by. Saved him by showing him that broken people could heal together, that damage didn't mean destroyed, that love was possible even when it seemed impossible. And Lila, brave, honest, impossible Lila, had saved them both by forcing them to be better than they thought they could be. They weren't perfect. Their life wasn't perfect. There were still hard days, still moments when the past caught up with them, still scars that ached in cold weather. But they were together. They were healing. They were building something real. And in the end, that was enough, more than enough. It was everything.